in before all the comments saying that I have too much time on my hands. I'm a fiction writer, goddammit. I live for this shit. Readers, I know I asked in the comments section of my Ghostbusters review whether or not you wanted to see this video, but I'm doing it anyway, because I really want to talk about it. So with that said, readers, this Readus Reacts does have spoilers to the 2016 Ghostbusters movie. And if you're still watching, it's probably because of one of three reasons. One, you've seen the movie already and you won't be spoiled by what I'm about to say. Two, you haven't seen it yet but you don't give a fuck about spoilers. Or three, because I don't fucking know, you like grilled cheese sandwiches. So let's get this gravy train started. If you recall, in my Ghostbusters review I posted last week, you'll remember that I said I have so many theories regarding where this franchise can go from here on out. Well, I kinda lied. Because in all honesty, I only have one main theory that can branch out to multiple ones. And if you saw the thumbnail but still weren't able to put together my fucking theory, it's this. Are you ready? Gozer is going to be the Thanos of the Ghostbusters cinematic universe. Right? Now, after watching the movie twice and planning a third viewing of it this coming Friday, because of how my fucking brain works, I noticed a lot of things both in the movie and in the dialogue of the characters. More specifically, the villain of Ghostbusters 2016, Rowan. Now, if you recall in my review, I said that I was impressed with the fact that he was a villain, mostly because he was a human and he planned all of this. Even before he became a Class 3/Class 4 Spectre and gained the abilities of a Class 7. All of this was his doing as a human, using a specific combination of technology to overcharge the ley lines and produce a significant amount of supernatural activity in New York, and then killing himself to become a Class 4 ghost, which, if it wasn't for the fact that the Ghostbusters were able to identify him as Rowan, he would have only been a Class 3. And because this was his fucking plan, and he knew how the ley line and the barrier worked, he was able to manipulate the energies as his own to become stronger to the point where he was considered a Class 7 ghost. Which is exactly what Vigo did in Ghostbusters 2. Vigo is naturally a Class 3/4 ghost. But thanks to the effects of the River of Slime, his power was boosted to that of a Class 7. And that itself was another clue regarding what the future holds for the franchise. This plan didn't involve a bigger bad. Specifically one that hasn't been around since the dawn of God's anus. Yes, Ivo Shandor built the Gozer Gateway apartment complex. But in the 1984 classic, the focus wasn't on Ivo Shandor, it was on Zuul, Vince, and Gozer. The focus wasn't on Ivo Shandor until Ghostbusters the video game. And the same could be said of Vigo with Ghostbusters 2. In a Ghostbusters movie, we are used to seeing either a god, a demigod/herald of said god, or an ancient as fuck ghost manipulating the strings behind the plot of the movie. But in this one, we didn't have that, which caused me to ask so many questions. Because the way that he sounded whenever he talked to the Ghostbusters or monologued to himself, despite the fact that this plan was always his from the get-go, from the ground up, it sounded like he was influenced by someone or something. You wanna know what other movie took that route? The first Avengers movie. Yes, I know technically Loki is a big bad in himself, but at the same time, you always have to ask those questions. Questions like, who was the six-fingered fuck that he was talking to? How did he get that scepter? Who gave him this fucking army to invade Earth to begin with? And it wasn't until we got the mid-credit scene, aka the only scene after the movie that fucking mattered, that we got our answer to all of those questions by one motherfucker standing up from his throne and giving a side profile and smiling to bitches. Thanos. Thanos gave Loki the scepter. Thanos was the cohort with the 6 fingers that talked to Loki. Thanos was the one who gave him the Chitauri in order to invade the Earth so that he can find the remaining Infinity Gems that were on that plane of existence. And I feel that this is what is happening with the Ghostbusters franchise with this movie. Because given what we have noticed in the movie, given what we have heard Rowan say in the movie, given how he acted and what happened, this is my theory. Rowan, being the 4chan asshole that he is, wants to destroy the world because he was picked on and bullied. Then one day, probably through one of the weaker aspects of the ley lines before he charged them, he was influenced to quote unquote break the barrier by something on the other side. In which case he did research on how to do it and stumbled upon Aaron and Abby's book. That something on the other side that influenced Rowan was Zuul. And while Rowan thinks that he's gonna be the one to rule the earth once he cleanses it, all the results of Rowan's actions were just manipulation tactics. So that when the barrier is weak enough, both Zuul and possibly Vince could cross over into our realm and properly prepare for the coming of Gozer. And do you want to know what holds my theory up? The fucking end credit scene! Because in that end credit scene, when everybody is working at the fire station, Patty is listening to some recorded tapes and she hears something weird and calls everybody's attention and asks one question. What's Zuul? I never squeezed so loudly in my life! Like I said, this is just a theory. And in interviews regarding the end credits scene, Paul Feig definitely hinted at ideas that they were playing around with the fact of reintroducing Zuul into the Ghostbusters universe. So with that being said, given the fact that they don't change certain aspects of the two terror dogs, and given the fact that the four girls will still remain the focus of the sequel, if I were to pick any of them to be possessed by and become the new vessel of Zuul, I would have to go Patty. Story-wise, because of the 2016 movie, she was the most underutilized of the four, and seeing her mentally battled out against Zuul while she's under her influence would be pretty boss to see. And given the fact that she's the street-smart, badass bookworm of the group, removing that aspect and that resource from the other three will cause them to grow character-wise in a way that I'm pretty interested in seeing how they develop. And personally, it's because of two things. Number one, as a big fuck you to the 4chan trolls that are currently making Leslie Jones's life on Twitter a living hell. And two, so that I can properly see her slay portraying Zuul. Like, have you seen this cover? If they could just give Leslie Jones the Wicked plus the Divine themed makeover and have her play Zuul, that would just be the best. That would be the best. You cannot tell me that you do not want to see Leslie Jones slay these hoes on screen as Zuul. That is like... yes. Now, do I want them to immediately focus on Gozer? Fuck no. As much as I love the mythology that Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd created regarding the villain, it can wait a few movies. Now that Zuul and Vince are on our plane, let them gather their strength while the Ghostbusters fight Sam Hain or the Boogeyman. Oh my god, I would love to see Sam Hain in an official movie. Establish your franchise, Sony. Don't rush into this. Make the other Ghostbusters team movie that you want to make. And when shit's really about to go down, aka Gozer for real, have the 2 or 3 teams come together, have your Infinity War movie, and have them fight a fucking god. At least you know that's what I would do. So readers, your homework assignment for the day. Write in the comment section below whether or not any of my ramblings made sense to you. Let me know whether you agree or disagree regarding how the movie handled Rowan. Let me know whether or not you think my Gozer theory is full of shit. Or, write your own theory if you have one completely different than mine. Because trust me, this wasn't the first Ghostbuster theory that blew my mind. The one that officially did it was that Oscar was the offspring of Zuul and Vince Clortho when they had sex in Ghostbusters 1. Yeah, you didn't even think about that shit, did you? Also, subscribe to my channel because, well, you know. Anyway, this is Readus 101. Class dismissed.